Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Wednesday, the 12th of January. As you might be able to tell from my voice, I have a cold. On December 30th, Rob came down with a cold after we got back from Jasper, and he was sort of flattened out for the first week of January when he was still on leave. Now he seems to be getting better, and I was thinking that my vitamin D3 was really kicking in and keeping me from getting sick, and no such luck. It seems to have hit me the last couple of days. So I'm not giving up, but I'm replacing coffee with water, trying to stay hydrated and keep my throat under control. One of the things that did happen, though, is I needed to go and get rapid tests because I had to make sure that maybe this wasn't COVID, having been in Jasper and, around people, and being out in public and things like that. You want to make sure you're being careful. So I went and got my rapid tests, and I tested negative a couple of times, so I'm good. This is just your old-fashioned run-of-the-mill post-Christmas cold, chest congestion and sore throat, and then the whole nasal thing. So bear with me here. But what it has brought home to me is something that I really hadn't thought a lot about COVID. And that is this sort of this shame about COVID that some people have. There's some really, really wonky polarities around COVID. The anti-vaccination, anti-masking, and then those people who do end up with COVID and this sense of feeling somehow like you've done something wrong. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the whole thing about shame and COVID. When someone gets the chicken pox, if a child gets the chicken pox, we joke with them about how many spots they have, and we hope that they won't scar. They get some time off school, and hopefully they won't pass it on to anybody else. And if they do, well, it's a childhood disease, and we hope that they won't get worse. But it happens, and we don't make fun of people who get chicken pox. We don't scorn them for like, what did you do to get that? We take care of them, and we wish them well, and we hope they get better soon, and they keep their germs to themselves. The same thing with if somebody gets the flu or a common cold. There might be a little bit of, you should have worn a hat outside, or don't go out with a wet head in the cold day, things like that, or, you should have gotten your flu shot. The flu shots work great. They really do. Every year I get my flu shot, especially working with congregations going into nursing homes and seniors residences. Having that flu shot is just one more protection for me and for them, that I'm not going to catch something, nor am I going to give something to them that could be harmful to them. But if I get the flu, nobody gives me grief. It's, work through it if you can, and if you can't, stay home. Somebody used to say, put a wool sock around your neck. Somebody used to say, I think my dad used to say, put a dirty wool sock around your neck. Do what you have to do to get better. And when you're feeling better, awesome. But there's something about testing positive, or potentially testing positive. Sorry, my wrist is still sore. Potentially testing positive for COVID that seems to have some kind of shame. Now, I don't know of anybody, I haven't heard of anybody actually shaming someone or saying that, you should be ashamed for getting it. And yet, when people call me up and say, I've been exposed, or I have to go for a test, or I hear about people who have tested positive for COVID, there's kind of this hush, like, shh, don't tell anybody, I'm so embarrassed. Why? Why would you be embarrassed about getting something that is so easily passed on? It's not like you found a COVID bed and rolled around in it like a pig in the mud, trying to pick up the germs. All you have to do is be around somebody who has it. You could touch a doorknob, I guess, that with, after someone's coughed into their hand. Who knows? It's so highly contagious, especially this latest strain. There is nothing shameful about getting COVID. We need to pray for people who get COVID. We need to pray that they will have a quick recovery, that they won't have any long COVID symptoms, that they will not maybe pass it on to other people, or that they'll have the patience and the resources they need to be able to isolate. There's no need to apologize. There's no need to feel ashamed for knowing someone or being exposed. How many times have we been out in public to concerts or hockey games, weddings or funerals, when somebody had it And, 99 times out of 100, the people who had COVID in the first place, who went into a public place, did not know. They wouldn't have gone if they'd known. They certainly didn't do it on purpose. So if we get exposed to COVID and we potentially, test positive, or even have the need to go and get a test, there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, getting a test and making sure you're okay, or discovering that, it is positive and you have to take care of yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, it's a good thing. It means that we're watching out for one another. We're taking care of the people around us. We're learning how to take care of ourselves. So if you have been exposed to someone who has COVID, if you have tested positive, or if there's a potential that you might, please don't feel ashamed. Please know that we pray for you and we want you to get better soon, and that you are in the same spot as so many millions of people in Canada, millions and millions and millions around the world. The other end of this is the whole thing about vaccinations. You know what? I'm not a really pushy person. I don't like to tell people what to do. Well, Rob would say I would, but for the most part, I don't like to tell people what to do. But I'm struggling to understand the reluctance for people to be vaccinated. I've received my vaccination. I haven't received my booster yet. I have to wait till this is cleared up, and then I can book my appointment. But I can understand people being reluctant to get a needle. I hate getting needles too. What I can't understand is such lies, absolute and utter lies, about things like the vaccination is planting a tracking device in our bodies. That's horse pucky. Even I know it's a possibility, but this is not some kind of high stakes espionage, country versus country. We are regular citizens just going about our business. The government wants to collect their taxes. They don't need to know where we are every minute of every day. They don't have the resources, even if they wanted to. So no, we are not being injected with some kind of tracking device. This is not the government's way of trying to control the people. It is the government's way of trying to keep the people safe. And that is really why we have government. We have people to keep us from being a lawless society. If every single person could do their own thing and not have to wear a seatbelt, they could run a red light, they could do whatever they like, we would have more death. We would have mass murders on a regular basis, I think, because people would just get mad because there was no rule against it and take someone else's life. There's a reason why we have law and order. And for the most part, I can't see people arguing that red lights are a bad idea, or that pulling over when an ambulance is going by, has to get by you, is a bad idea. Why is it that we get so up in arms when the government says, for the good of all the people, let's do this? There's a meme on Facebook that I shared. It just showed two people in hospital beds side by side with a curtain drawn between them, a man and a woman. And the man yells out, "Nurse," and the woman in bed says yes, because the nurse is sick with COVID. We have people who are working themselves into illness. They're working themselves into sickness because they're working so hard, because we have so many people in the hospital. And I know there's arguments about people not dying of COVID, they're dying of comorbidities. But the point is, if they didn't get COVID, they wouldn't necessarily, those comorbidities wouldn't have gotten so bad, that they wouldn't have been affected so badly. COVID is hurting us. It is also taking up hospital beds. If all of the people who were in the hospital who are unvaccinated weren't there, all of those, there's lots of people I know who have been vaccinated who are in the hospital because of things like comorbidities and other things that COVID has exacerbated. But if all those people who were unvaccinated had been vaccinated and didn't get COVID, at least not this bad, then all those hospital beds would be open for people who need cancer treatments, for people who need to have surgeries, for people who have heart disease or strokes. When we are hearing that there are no more ambulances available, there are no more beds available, that's a problem. And part of that problem could be solved if we would simply, as a society, recognize that we cannot stand for ourselves if we don't stand for each other. So please, if you haven't already been vaccinated, please get vaccinated. There is no shame in getting COVID, but it is a shame if you get it and you didn't have to. Please, please, please take care of yourself, and in so doing, you're going to help to take care of other people. And for those of us who have been vaccinated and are concerned about COVID, there is no shame in getting it. There is only shame if we don't do something about it. So together, let's stay home, stay safe, stay maxed, get vaccinated, and do what we can to make sure that we get this under control and we figure out a new way to be the people of Canada without the cynicism, without the hate, without the finger pointing, but really looking out for one another. Because that's what we're called to do as citizens, and it's certainly what we're called to do as Christians. Have a good day. God bless you, and I will see you again, provided I have a voice, on Church at Home with Rachael for Thursday.